Good evening. The time is now 7:20, and we're going to proceed with the public hearing for the Drug and Lab Disposal Incorporated Draft Expansion Operating License. Thank you for attending the public hearing on the Draft Expansion Operating License for Drug and Lab Laboratory Disposal Incorporated, which is located at 331 Broad Street here in Plainwell. My name is Lonnie Lee. I will be your hearings officer this evening, and with me I have Kimberly Tyson, who's the permit engineer for this project, and Mary Carnegie, the project geologist. Jenny Hemmick is here in the office. She's the chief of the permit and corrective action unit. Dolores Montgomery, hazardous waste section chief. Fred Sellers, who's also here, is the district supervisor. And we also have with us Dave Slayton, and absent is our district inspector, Nadine Deek, and the project EQA, Clay Spencer. The DEQ has proposed to issue an operating license to Drug and Laboratory Disposal Incorporated that will allow them to continue operating their existing storage and treatment units and to construct additional units to manage more hazardous waste. The purpose of this public hearing is to briefly discuss the contents of the draft operating license prepared by the DEQ and to allow the public an opportunity to discuss the facility's anticipated waste management activities with the DEQ and the facility. Now, to clarify, the public hearing is not a dialogue. We will just take public comments. However, as discussions go, if there's anyone that's interested in talking about the facility or discussing it after the hearing process, we will remain here to do so. The agenda for this evening will consist of the following. The public participation process, which I will chair. A presentation on the draft operating license presented by Kimberly Tyson. A presentation on environmental monitoring presented by Mary Carnegie. And a compliance summary presented by Fred Sellers. After these presentations, we will take public comments. The focus of the public participation process is the involvement of the public in the hazardous waste treatment, storage, and disposal permitting process. A public participation process is required under Part 111, Hazardous Waste Management of the Michigan Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, Public Act 451 as amended, when an applicant submits an application to manage hazardous waste at their facility. The DEQ reviews the application, and if it satisfies all technical requirements of Part 111, then the DEQ proposes to issue the applicant a license. The public participation process serves to address local community concerns, environmental issues, human health concerns, and to share knowledge about facility operations. The DEQ has provided several opportunities for the public involvement during this licensing process. The DEQ held a public hearing on December 9, 2010 to receive comments on what was then referred to as the construction permit application. DEQ provided status updates to the facility mailing list on the internet through the DEQ website. And tonight, the DEQ is providing information and an opportunity for the public to comment on the draft operating license. Next, Kimberly Tyson will provide a presentation on the draft operating license.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Tyson. I'm the permit engineer responsible for reviewing the application and drafting the license. My portion of the presentation, I will discuss the current and proposed operations and the contents of the proposed operating license. This map is an area view of the facility location. Drug and Laboratory Disposal is located at 331 Broad Avenue in the city of Plainwell in Allegan County, and has operated at this location since 1977. The size of the facility is 3.4 acres, the current size that is, and it is zone restricted manufacturing and is bounded by residential and industrial areas. The Kalamazoo River is located 1,400 feet southwest of the facility. Drug and laboratory disposal is considered a commercial storage and treatment facility. This means that they can receive hazardous waste from off-site generators such as laboratories, medical facilities, and households, and academia. Drug and Lab already is licensed to accept most of the U.S. EPA and Michigan waste codes, except for waste that exhibit explosive type properties. But with this new license, that restriction has been removed. However, they will be required to treat that material upon receipt or store it in the proposed explosive bunker. Drug and Lab uses these processes for treating, lab packing, commingling, deactivation of reactives, hexavalent chrome reduction, metal stabilization, neutralization, and distillation. Drug and Lab will continue to use these existing treatment processes with the addition of the electrolytic recovery of metals. This process uses a controlled electric current to recover metals such as gold, silver, mercury that are dissolved or suspended in waste solutions. In this area map, you can see how the facility will be expanded. It's going to expand mostly toward the east, toward the railroad tracks, which is beyond the railroad tracks are mostly industrial areas. Dave, can you kind of highlight the existing areas so you can kind of see what the new areas are in the existing building and the proposed areas are outlined in colors. And then there's also a proposed area north by the truck line there. So as we can see, this facility is going to go from its current size of 3.4 acres to 14.5 acres when all of the construction is complete. Drug and Lab will be acquiring some additional property from the former A1 disposal site to expand the facility. This is the master site plan. Again, you can see some of the new areas that we're proposing to license. Most of these new areas will be used for container storage and treatment, except for DLS 6A, DLS 6B, the explosives bunker to the north, DLS 7, and DLS 12. Now, DLS 6, which will be housed in an existing warehouse, and DLS 6B, which will be a new construction, it will be for the storage of hazardous controlled substances. The explosives bunker north of the facility will be used for the storage of hazardous waste with explosive properties. DLS 7 will be for tank storage, and Drug and Lab has proposed to install 15 vertical steel tanks to store ignitable waste. DLS 12, as you can see on the east side of the facility, is going to be an extended rail spur with a covered rail spur, actually, for waste that's going to be transported to the site and from the site by rail. It's going to be a covered area, and there is going to be storage capacity for this area because while the waste is waiting to be transported off-site, it needs to be in storage, so there's going to be storage capacity associated with that. Proposed operations. Drug and Lab proposed to manage the same type of hazardous waste except with the addition of the hazardous waste that has the explosive properties, but just more quantity of the waste. The container storage capacity will go from 33,770 gallons to 429,416 gallons. The tank storage capacity will go from 30,000 gallons to 120,000 gallons. Like I mentioned, it's the same management operations. They will continue to do storage and treatment, no disposal being proposed. It's going to be the same container storage. They're going to treat in containers as they always have been, but they're just going to have additional areas to do this treatment in and storage. they're going to go from the 3 areas, DLS 1, 2, and 3, to the additional areas, 10 areas that is going to make up the facility expansion. The draft operating license will be for a period of 10 years. It consists of 8 parts and 13 attachments. These attachments are basically documents that come from their application so that we can kind of have some of the important operation details in one location. Part 1 and 2 of the operating license is basically the conditions that you will find in all operating licenses that we issue under Part 111, general responsibilities and legal requirements, and the facility design and operational requirements. Part 3 of the license are specific conditions to the construction of the new areas. These conditions require construction in accordance with the approved engineering plans, submittal of progress reports during active construction, submittal of as-built plans after construction, and certification that the newly constructed areas are capable of storing and treating hazardous waste prior to operation. Also, there will be a condition to require Drug and Lab to update the notice that's already on its property deed to identify the legal description of the land upon which it will come to be, the expanded facility will be located. Part 4 of the license identifies all the container storage and treatment areas, the types of waste to be managed in those areas, the treatment capacity, and the method of treatment. Similar to Part 4, Part 5 identifies all the tank storage areas, types of waste to be managed in the tanks, and their storage capacities. Part 6 identifies the miscellaneous units at the facility. Drug and Lab is already licensed to operate 2 container shredders in DLS2. The new license will authorize them to operate 11 more container shredders. The shredders are used to physically treat hazardous waste by separating the waste contents from its container. Drug and Lab is already licensed to operate 1 filter press in DLS3. The new license will authorize them to operate 9 more filter presses throughout the expanded area. The facility presses are used to physically separate liquids from waste solids. The aerosol discharge and recovery units will be new units at the facility. It's an apparatus that screws onto a 55-gallon drum, and with a squeeze of the handle, it punctures a hole in the aerosol can. The liquids are captured in the drum, and the volatiles are captured by an activated carbon filter also attached to the drum. Drug and Lab has proposed to operate 14 of these units throughout the expanded area. Part 7 of the license discusses the groundwater monitoring program, and Mary, our project geologist, will discuss this program more in detail after my presentation. Drug and Lab is subject to corrective action under Part 111. This means that any releases of hazardous contaminants at the facility must be characterized and cleaned up. Part 8 of the license identifies waste management units and areas of concern at the facility that must be investigated to determine if any releases has occurred. Most of the units or areas of concern are required to be investigated upon closure of the facility, but due to the proposed construction activities, the time frame for investigating the waste management unit number 7, which is the former Croc area, and the area of concern, the property on the east side of Drug and Lab, has been changed to coincide with those construction activities for DLS 11 and the future parking lot. Now, in Part 9 of the license, which is a schedule of compliance, this is nothing bad at all. They are in compliance. But basically, this part of the license requires the submittal of a revised contingency plan to add procedures Drug and Lab will use to assess the nature and extent of any off-site releases that may occur if there is an on-site fire or explosion incident. It also requires the submittal of a revised groundwater sampling and analysis plan that identifies the new monitoring well network. Now, this new monitoring well network was changed to accommodate the facility expansion. Some wells need to be relocated. Since Drug and Lab will be acquiring additional land to expand its facility, the DEQ is requiring Drug and Lab to submit an assessment report documenting the nature and extent of any known contamination that may be present on the acquired land. This report is necessary for the DEQ to determine if a corrective action monitoring program is required for the new land. Well, this concludes my portion of the presentation, and now Mary will talk to us about the groundwater monitoring conditions.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Carnegie. I'm a project geologist, and I'm going to briefly go over the groundwater monitoring program that's currently in place with the Drug and Lab facility and the changes for the new operating license. The groundwater monitoring that's currently being done has two major objectives. We want to monitor any potential releases from the current facility under their operating license and existing subsurface contamination from the historic A1 disposal facility, which was located to the east of the DLD property. The main purpose of the groundwater monitoring is to determine if any hazardous waste has been released from the facility. We do this by quarterly monitoring, which includes collecting groundwater samples from existing wells and taking static water level measurements to determine groundwater flow, and we assess if anything would be suspected of a release. Next slide. Currently, as I said, the groundwater sampling occurs quarterly, and there's a network of 7 wells. We do up gradient and down gradient wells to assess the conditions. If there's something that pops up in the down gradient wells that is not in the up gradient wells, that would indicate a release. The list of parameters to the right, it's a long list. The primary parameters are mostly related to the current operations at Drug and Lab, which is a lot of solvents and volatile organic compounds. Secondary parameters for existing historic A1 contamination. The current well network, is 7 wells, and they're highlighted in yellow and red on the figure. We plan to abandon the 2 yellow highlighted wells. They're indoor wells, and they currently cause obstruction and access issues for the plant. So we're going to properly abandon those. That will also reduce the possibility of any vapor intrusion into the building. And a down gradient well will be installed where the star is on the northwest portion of the property. And lastly, to discuss the groundwater remediation system that is in place. This was a response to the A1 disposal releases. To the northwest, it's a blue dotted line. It's called the groundwater collection system. What this does is it collects the groundwater from the site with drain tiles. It filters it back to the aeration basin, which is in the southeast corner. And this aerates the groundwater to the surface to allow for off-gassing of the volatiles, and then allows the water to percolate back into the ground and re-enter the groundwater system. And this is to remediate any of the previous releases from A1.
Hello, my name is Fred Sellers. I'm District Supervisor for the Kalamazoo District Office, Resource Management Division. Our office has the responsibility of inspecting drug and lab disposal for operating procedures and the physical structure. Going back to 1999, there have been no major violations. There occasionally has been a paperwork violation, mislabeling of a drum or a failure to label a drum, and also insufficient aisle space, which hopefully the expansion will take care of. Any of the violations that have been seen out there have been quickly and appropriately addressed, and there are currently no outstanding violations with drug and laboratory disposal. We inspect the facility twice each year. Our division, Resource Management Division, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency also occasionally conducts inspections out there, and they're also subject to inspections by other agencies such as MIOSHA, Air Quality Division, etc. But their track record has been very good for the amount of waste they handle. Again, they have no outstanding issues.
Thank you. Thank you both. Three of you there. Before we move on to the public comment, I recall that I introduced Dave Slayton, but I don't recall that I mentioned that Dave is a senior geologist in the Permit and Corrective Action Unit of the Hazardous Waste Section. Moving right along, we're now about to go into the public comment phase. And if you would like to make comments, please fill out an attendance card. And if you wish to speak, and if you haven't already filled out one, if you wish to speak, we need you to check the box. We would like for elected officials to speak first. Public can speak in order of registration, and a written copy of any remarks that you might have would be appreciated. There's a mic available if you want to speak, and when you come to the mic, please spell your name, and please be aware that your testimony is being recorded. Also, please limit remarks to 5 minutes. If you go beyond 5 minutes, you will be asked to stop. No responses on the record tonight from the DEQ, but as mentioned earlier, we will be available to discuss the project further after the hearing if you have need for further discussion. Do we have anyone that want to speak?
Got 2 more slides to go through.
I was going to do that after people spoke, but that's fine. Okay. The public comment period ends September 12th. Any written comments on the draft license should be sent to Ms. Kimberly Tyson at the Department of Environmental Quality, Resource Management Division, P.O. Box 30241, Lansing, Michigan 48909. Regarding the location of available information, information is available at Ransom District Library, located at 180 South Sherwood Avenue in Plainwell. Also at the DEQ Kalamazoo District Office. You can contact Ms. Nadine Deek at 269-567-3592. Information is also available from the Lansing Central Office through Ms. Kimberly Tyson, who may be contacted at 517-373-2487. And online at www.michigan.gov/DEQ. Click on Waste, Hazardous and Liquid Industrial Waste, Hazardous and Liquid Industrial Waste Management, then look under Information. Now, we can proceed with public comments. I have in front of me one card, and the individual that submitted the card does not wish to speak. So, if there aren't if there isn't anyone present that wishes to speak, we will proceed with closing the public hearing portion of tonight's presentations officially at 7:45. Thank you.